everyone. Welcome all to Jasiri. I hope you're all feeling energized and ready for some insightful conversations today.
And that's right, Blessings. We've got a lot in store for you today. But before we dive into all of that, I think Catherine has finally succeeded in possibly getting rid of Lolo. What did you do?
I did absolutely nada. I mean, absolutamente nada. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire avec elle? No?
That's right. That's
so, no, when she starts speaking in a foreign language other than one word, she's lying.
Yes.
So, please, what did you people do with my Lolo?
I've not seen Lolo.
You actually want to look under the table?
I was going right here, sorry. I just got in a little late.
No, I don't understand.
Oh my God.
Don't tell me you went to collect, rice, Abby. You went to collect rice. Talk true, serious. She had to wear her glasses.
Okay, so where were you? Because I'm the latecomer. I don't understand how you want to take my title.
Right? This is the first time this is happening.
Can I breathe?
Please go ahead.
Can I breathe
and
get into my work? Okay. Because this is work, and I don't want anybody to get into my work.
Were you able to get rice, though?
Sorry.
Because you look like you went to struggle for rice.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I said that,
struggle what? Struggle show. He enter.
That thing you said, enter. If it is not that we're in a very civilized and professional space, I know what I would have done.
I know what
I would have used Catherine. No, I would have used you to beat Catherine. Yes.
Catherine was correct. Anyhow.
What's the problem? Yesterday, my village people were after me.
With your earrings.
When I saw that clip, whether we go buy rice or we not buy rice, the most important thing is say serious matters they grant.
Yes.
And that is why you require people like me.
I'm so sorry.
The mother of the nation.
That's why you came late.
They need to create an office for me. Office of the first mother of the nation.
Okay. If you listen to Lolo, we have so many unnecessary offices and shows. Because yesterday she was requesting a show where we can sing. Yes. I don't know why.
Please, can we focus?
Okay.
Okay, Mother of the Nation, we'll come back to that. We'll table it in front.
Yes.
So we need to, of course, let you know, as much as we can bring some laughter and smiles to you, there are serious things at hand.
Honestly.
And one of the serious things at hand is that right now the Nigeria Labour Congress has embarked on a nationwide protest across the country. And yes, happening across the country, but we have a correspondent who's with protesters in Lagos. So let's go to Marshal Anthony Onoye, and he's with the protesters who've been marching from Ikeja under bridge, and they're heading to the State House of Assembly at Alausa. Marshal, are you with us? Can you hear us now?
Okay, so we've gone from the Ikeja under bridge, the takeoff. We are still on the way to the State House of Assembly, and of course we've heard earlier from the Commissioner of Police and the State Chairman of the NLC, and for now you can be rest assured that the policemen are here providing maximum security and ensuring that the protest is peaceful. But one thing you'd also find, you can be rest assured that business activities en route that are cited on this route have been brought to a standstill. As you also can see the traffic, there's a long haul of traffic all the way from Maryland down to Ikeja, CMD and the CBD area of Ikeja. Traffic is on a standstill. So that obviously would affect commercial activities for the day. I have one of the organizers of the Revolution Now with me here, Sheson, and he's here. Let's hear from Sheson. Sheson, Revolution Now is an organization of its own who say that they are fighting for the interest of the common man, but we find them here giving some sort of solidarity to the NLC protest. May I ask you, how does the Revolution Now agenda align with the NLC?
Absolutely. The Revolution Now agenda aligns with the NLC, basically because the NLC are Nigerian people, and we are fighting for the Nigerian people. Our struggle includes even the demands of the NLC, because at the end of the day, we are calling for the minimum wage to be scrapped and then a living wage to be implemented. So our agenda definitely aligns with the NLC, and we are here to also represent other oppressed Nigerians, including those at Oroshoki, where they are demolishing, houses of poor working people. We are here to also support the nurses of Nigeria, who they have used stringent verification rules to prevent from, practicing and also seeking for greener pastures. They are talking about the Jackpot syndrome. Ask me, if the government invests in the healthcare of Nigeria, would anybody be thinking of leaving Nigerian hospitals? If the government cannot stop themselves from going abroad for treatment, why should they stop the nurses from leaving Nigeria for a better tomorrow? So absolutely, our struggle aligns with all working people of Nigeria, including the street boys and girls hawking on the streets. That is not the future we want for them.
Now, one big question that is on the minds of everybody is what needs to be done. Protests might not just be enough, strikes might not be enough, and call it shutting down and picketing organizations and parastatals of government might not just be enough. What really needs to be done by, what is expected of the government?
It is quite simple. A revolution, you cannot demand anything from a government who is deaf. The Tinubu government, as well as the former Buhari government, are deaf people. The ruling class of Nigeria only care about their interests. And for that reason, there is nothing we can demand of them that will be granted to us. Because our poverty in this country, our suffering, is their profits. The suffering of the working people is their profits. Hence, the only solution to the Nigerian problem is a revolution. A socialist revolution at that. Yes.
All right, that was us from the organizers of the Revolution Now protest, giving some sort of solidarity to the Nigerian Labour Congress protest. They are calling for a reformation of the workforce and asking for hunger. Well, it's tagged hashtag hunger protest. They are asking for the government to do something about what they call the hunger in the land. Well, back to you guys, Jasiri. I know you guys are having fun, but here on the streets, we're really feeling the pulse of the people.
Quickly see if we have an idea of the number of people right now, because I was listening to radio on the way here. So in different places across the country, in different cities, the numbers are a bit different. So Marshall, if you can hear me, can we get an idea of the number of people who are with you on that particular protest line as they head to Alausa?
Yes, beautiful Nigeria. There are so many
Yeah, we are calling everybody out.
All right, so I think it's just getting quite hectic there, and he's talking to a number of people. But as we could see, we heard from somebody who's representing Revolution Now. We know that's a party. I don't know, would you call it a party? It's a movement, right? It's not a party. It's not a party. It's a movement that seems to be spearheaded by Omayele Sowore. But at the end of the day, many people are upset, unhappy, they're frustrated, they're hungry.
Honestly, if these protests can do what it's meant to do, it will really be good for everyone in the country, at least the general populace, because the mandate is saying, end hunger in the land. I think this is the first time in Nigeria that people would actually be these, challenged, especially when it comes to food. We can take a lot of other things that are not going right. We can manage the bad roads. We can manage the fact that there's no electricity. We can manage the fact that the wages are low. But now that Nigerians cannot even afford the basics to feed themselves, trust me, this is something.
And I feel like people need to, pipe down on their agitation against the NLC, because many people are still, doubtful angry at the NLC and still doubtful as to whether or not they are credible enough. But if it's for a common goal, it's for a common cause. And I've heard people say that NLC is going on strike again. It's not a strike. It's a two-day protest. So let's see how it turns out. NLC did what they did, but this is a new cause that is worthy of fighting for. So we need to douse attention and just pipe down on the anger at NLC. The anger should be at the hunger.
Yeah, not the NLC. Because whether we like it or not, whether we like it or it affects everybody. You may not have confidence in the NLC now, but have confidence in the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's not
our cause.
It's our cause. It's a protest. They're not going on strike. We're protesting because we have a unanimous reason to it affects everybody. And if it affects except you are not living in this country, especially this Lagos now, you will say it does not affect you. It does affect all of us.
All right, so we're seeing images now coming from different parts of the country. And this is coming from Abuja now. News Central has been covering this since morning from across Nigeria. So images coming from Abuja now. I know that they're also planning to march as far as they can. The numbers in the early hours were still a bit down. Now Delta states now. But what we know is that the NLC has said the day is young, that we should allow their members to come. So we're getting into 10. In Lagos, they've started moving. In other cities as well, they've started moving. But we're also hearing reports that in some instances, police are actually stopping those who want to be part of the protest from being part of the protest. Our reporter who's covering Maiduguri also sent in a report saying that the Borno police has stopped the NLC from embarking on a nationwide protest in Maiduguri. So we've seen Delta, we've taken Lagos, we've also taken Abuja as well. We also have a reporter that is in Abia as well, so you can see how it's looking. But one thing that Marshall said that did strike me was that he said the police were there and that they were actually, you know, on the line with them. So providing security and, of course, whatever else. And that's what we've always asked for. That's what we talked about yesterday. Don't tell me that you're hearing security threats. Deal with the security threats and let me exercise my constitutional rights.
I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but let's not get too comfortable. It always starts like that.
And the day is still young.
You think that the day is still young? It always starts like that. But what the two of them are saying is that they believe at the end of the day, is it that the police will cause the issues or that issues will come?
Or maybe the police will contribute.
And the thing is because we've seen this pattern over and over again. Sometimes I even think that some of these things are politically motivated. You know, they just plant people in to cause, you know, to derail us from the major thing that everybody is focused on. And that's what I think that the police should be looking out for, because they know this is a regular pattern. It's nothing new. Most of the times, these miscreants and these hoodlums are always, put in there like jigsaw puzzle to cause trouble. But those are the things that they should be alert to catch. They're not too hard to fish out. Most of this NLC are in uniform. Some of them they're wearing solidarity colors.
In fact,
but once you start to see regular clothing or people that are looking a bit shady, then they can move in and begin to not just let chaos happen.
Just it really only takes one little shake, because a lot of times we hear in the papers, I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case this time around, but on the papers you hear things like, what started off as a peaceful protest? What now happened? Every time, what started off
actually, you hear that.
Yeah, what started off. We're hoping that that's not the case, but we've seen the patterns.
That as these protests are starting off peaceful, they continue peaceful, and they also end peaceful as well. So that's a touch on a breaking story that is getting nationwide coverage. Please stay with us here at News Central. At the 12 o'clock hour, we have News Central now. We have all the latest updates from across the country. Now, another story today that is taking nationwide coverage is the announced implementation of the Steve Oronsaye report by President Bola Tinubu, and that news came out yesterday after the Federal Executive Council meeting. We have a very special guest who's going to help us break it down. He's joining us live on Jasiri, and that's Dr. Joe Abah. He's the former Director General of the Public Service Reform Bureau of Nigeria, and that's a conversation he was involved in. Stick around.
You're welcome back to Jasiri. We're live on our social media platforms. If you're on the move or you're joining the protest as well, or you can now watch us on DSTV channel 422 or on Star Times channel 274, you can still be part of the conversation on X, Facebook and Instagram. Just make sure you use the hashtag Jasiri. That way we'll know you're watching.
Now, on Monday, the 26th of February, 2024, the Federal Executive Council met with the president at the Aso Villa, and some decisions were made. Now, the main highlight that has everyone talking is that the president has ordered the full implementation of the Steve Oronsaye report 12 years after, and after orders of implementation by two previous presidents.
Well, in addition to that, the council said that this was in order to enhance efficiency in the federal service and reduce the cost of governance as well. Now, the recommendations mean restructuring and rationalization of federal agencies, parastatals, and commissions. And this also involves the merging, subsuming, and scrapping of agencies currently operating with similar functions.
Now, the Oronsaye report was first submitted in 2012 to then President Jonathan, to which he released a white paper report in 2022. Buhari released a second white paper under his administration, but didn't implement the report. However, Bola Tinubu has decided to now implement the report in his own time. Not only that, but he's also set up an 8-man committee with a 12-week deadline to ensure its implementation.
And joining us today is Dr. Joe Abah, the former Director General of the Public Service Reforms and now the Country Director of DAI. You're very welcome, sir.
Dr. Abah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. And I think it's really important that it's even Dr. Abah that's with us, because you were quite involved around some of the issues with this report. And I know for many people, it's a conversation around Tinubu is doing it now, but when Jonathan ordered it and then ordered implementation, then Buhari ordered implementation, we're now here with 12 weeks to work out legislative, legal, whatever frameworks. Let's start from there. This Oronsaye report, this was 12 years ago. Does it still... Do the recommendations still meet the reality of Nigeria 12 years later?
Thanks very much, Tolu, and thanks for having me. And yes, I have been deeply involved. I was the secretary of the implementation committee under President Jonathan. And during that time, we dealt with a number of appeals. But it was sort of a year before the elections, so not much was done. President Buhari sort of got into a habit of announcing its implementation every 6 months or so to keep people quiet. But not much was actually done. And no, this is not the full implementation of the Oronsaye report by any means at all. The report has 4 main recommendations. It talked about agencies that should be scrapped, and only NAPEP has ever been scrapped. All the others were not even mentioned in this release from yesterday. Then it talked about those that were to be merged, and then it talked about those that we should no longer be funding, and we should actually have stopped funding since 2013. And one of them is the state-owned television station, which gets about 7 billion every year from the federal budget. And then there were a number of agencies that he recommended that we should look at their board structure to make the governance more robust. So yes, this is a subset of some of the things that were recommended. It's a start, but it is a subset. But back to your question as to whether it is still relevant, the terms of reference for the Oronsaye committee was to look at ways to reduce the cost of governance, remove duplications in functions, enumerate the number of agencies that government actually had. And I believe that at the time, he enumerated about 541 agencies. The number has since trebled since then, since 2012. But yes, there have been a number of reviews of the report to bring it up to date. So I oversaw 2 of such reviews when I was DG. And since I left about 6 years ago, it's been reviewed at least another 3 times to bring it to date. Up to date, yeah.
You know, I think the country, everybody has been agitating that we need to reduce the cost of governance generally. And many people will say that this is coming at a very good time, at least now that there's a lot of heat in the country. A lot of people will say, okay, at least the president is listening to the people and is trying to feel the pulse of the nation and actually do something. But another confusing thing is some of these agencies are actually created by the Constitution. That means it cannot just be something you can just scrap or subsume or merge. There needs to be some kind of constitutional, maybe amendments here and there, maybe like National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission that will be subsumed under the Revenue, Mobilization and Fiscal Commission is like an example. So that means there's still a lot of legal bureaucracies that we need to jump through a lot of hoops. Do you think this would happen quickly? Or this would be another thing that will slow down the implementation of this thing that's they're doing?
It's a very good question. It doesn't have to be as difficult as it sounds, though. You can have a single agency reform act and simply list all the agencies you want to amend or scrap or merge. That's what we did with the Petroleum Industries Act. That removed DPR, removed about 4 different agencies with one single act. But you raise a very important point, because this is where it gets quite political when it gets to the National Assembly, because people have interests. Yeah. And those interests will have to be, managed. And of course, the National Assembly would always be worried about what happens to staff. The Minister of Information was announcing yesterday that any measures or agencies being subsumed does not mean job losses for anyone. But you look at any organization at all, biggest cost is staffing. Yeah. And so when you merge 2 organizations, maybe you save the salary of one chief executive if you're not going to get rid of anybody else. But then it brings other issues which people often don't think about. It's the easiest part is announcing that there's a merger. But once you announce there's a merger, you automatically have 2 directors of finance, 2 directors of HR, 2 of every single
agency.
And if you're not going to cut staffing, then you spend all of your time dealing with managing conflict and territorial warfare. And if you're not careful, they'll simply get in the way of each other. So there's a need, like I said, though, this is a start. It's good to at least start from somewhere. It's good that the Federal Executive Council has announced something. And they've been a bit careful. A lot of what they've announced don't necessarily require legislative change, particularly those to be subsumed. So he said, for instance, that Servicom should be subsumed under the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, which I used to run. Servicom is not set up by an act of
law or parliament.
Neither is BPSR. So that's a very easy administrative fix that could just happen. Some of the other ones are set up by acts, not even the constitutional one. They are set up by acts of the National Assembly. And like I said, those acts need to be amended, but they can be done with a single act.
So, Dr. Abah, in terms of reducing the cost of governance, I want us to come back to that, because there are speculations that Nigeria itself is known for wasteful spending. And by Nigeria, we know what that means. It means, government, the governance. So if we're to implement this report, do you think that it changes anything? Because one of the purposes is to reduce, the cost of governance. But if we have it in our nature to always find something to spend on, is it going to change anything, or is it just going to direct our funds to something else?
My thinking actually is that we've got to a position where we had no choice. We simply could not afford to run the size of government we currently have. We couldn't afford it anymore. Not with the cost of living currently, the government struggling even to pay salaries. We've come to a position where we simply didn't have a choice.
Did we have to get there, though, for this to happen? Because, I'm not taking away from your trail of thoughts. It just came out just like that. Like, do we always have to wait to get there? Now we are given a 12-week period, almost as if you just want things to happen immediately. Why do we, in 12 weeks, what can we see happen? Because we see that the committee comprises the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, head of the civil, the Attorney General, the Justice Minister, Budget and Planning Minister, all these big names. Okay, fine. We know that these people must have been picked or selected for a reason. Now, you've brought them all to the table, and we have a window of 12 weeks. Dr. Abah, in all honesty, can anything, I won't say can anything good come out of Israel. No. Can anything good, can we realize anything tangible in 12 weeks? Because like you say, we're in dire straits.
Well, let me start by answering the first question. Did we have to get here?
Yes.
By saying that sometimes crisis is actually a good lever for reforms. So sometimes things that you've avoided doing,
crisis will force your hand.
Crisis will force your hand to do it. But I think we need to moderate our expectations of what we can get in the 12 weeks. So in the 12 weeks, I'd expect the Attorney General to have looked at all the acts setting up these organizations and come up with a draft legislation that will go to the Federal Executive Council for consideration. And it could be a single agency reform act, like I said.
Yeah.
I would expect the head of service to have looked at the staffing and consider how to deal with the duplication, right? So who do you post to where? Do you actually post some out of the agencies into the mainline ministries or not? I would expect my successor, the DG of the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, to look at how the mandates of these various agencies are consolidated, particularly those that have been merged. So what mandate are they now pursuing, and how is the organization configured to be able to deliver that mandate? So all of those persons that have been identified as part of these committees would come up with an approach to tackling the problem. That's what I would expect will happen in 12 weeks. I wouldn't expect that the committee will wave a magic wand
and everything will just...
Sorry, Lolo, I have two very burning questions for me, because when I saw the minister yesterday talking about what's being scrapped, I have some concerns. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is being scrapped. The ICPC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Commission is being scrapped. And even though we've heard that they had overlapping tendencies from the creation of both of them, that's been an issue, now to hear that they're being scrapped. Is it being scrapped or merged? What does that do to Nigeria's fight against corruption, especially internally? That's one. Then secondly, the president has over 30-something ministers. He has more than over 40. I wanted to be safe. He has over 40 ministers. And we know what the Constitution says about representation at the Federal Executive Council level for each state. When we look at some of these agencies, ministries going as well, and the combination, the mergings that are going to happen, what does that do at the ministerial level? What does that do in terms of representation for each state at the Federal Executive Council? So sorry, two questions in one.
Okay, I think you're conflating two things.
Okay.
Let's start with the ministerial one first. The Constitution says that there shall be a minister from every state. So that's a minimum of 36, which is a problem on its own, because whether the president needs 36 or not, he must appoint at least 36. So that's on the one thing. But the role of the ministries is to formulate policies. There is no entitlement to have particular agencies. The president, under Section 5 of the Constitution, has all the executive powers of the federation vested in him, and he can choose how he wants to configure his government. So that's the one for ministers. I think we have too many ministers, frankly speaking. I think that the cost of maintaining ministers
it's enormous.
It's quite a lot. But back to the question about scrapping or merger. I haven't seen the full announcements. But just going back to the original recommendation of the Oronsaye report, it was actually to merge the two to create a unified body.
Okay.
Rather than get rid of them. It was actually to create a unified body. And you could look at that in various ways. EFCC's role is, as its name suggests, is economic and financial crimes. So it looks at money laundering, terrorist financing, advance fee fraud, those kinds of things is what it tends to focus on. The ICPC, on the other hand, focuses more on bureaucratic corruption.
Internal.
So bribery, things like that. So whether you merge them or not, you still need to tackle both types of corruption in the system. But yes, it's clear that there's quite a bit of duplication. It's been difficult to get them to operate as one unified function sharing information, sharing intelligence and all that, just because, you know, people are human beings. Everybody wants to outshine the other. So yes, but you can have a unified anti-corruption body that then has
different departments that just does something. You know, a lot of people would say that, why does it, like 12 years, we're looking at a paper that was delivered 12 years ago, and now is the time that we're thinking of implementing it. And we've seen people like you who has been very close to governance and close to some of these reforms that are put on paper that can be done. If this takes this long to get to this point, so how long are we ever going to see any change in the total governance in Nigeria? Is there a future that we can actually foresee that the cost of governance would actually reduce? Because when you were speaking, I was speaking things like, there's going to be fallout everywhere. If there are 2 DGs, there are 2 finance people, who's going to be on top, who's going to be below? And those are the kinds of quagmire we're going to find ourselves. And it's just going to keep getting deeper. And by the time you're doing all these administrative things, the real deal that we want to see will become light years ahead again. So is this just something that we're just doing to like a palliative, just to make the people's tension like calm down, and nothing is really going to happen?
I think that, first of all, there is always hope. There's always prospects for things getting better. I've been on the case of improving the issuance of Nigerian passports for 11 years.
Yes.
And Tolu
is aware. Personal experience.
And finally, we're beginning to get to a situation where there is some predictability in passports administration. We never had a functional Consumer Protection Council before now. We do. So some of these things take time they take time to come to fruition. And they take time because these are very complex political issues. And and you know, there are things run by human beings, not by robots. So if you look at, say, the passport service, for instance, and you know, we seem to be beginning to get somewhere with the passport service. So imagine a report that says scrap the passport service or take it away from immigration and put it. Someone will say, no, that doesn't make sense. So as an example, Oronsaye recommended basically breaking up the Federal Road Safety Commission, returning most of it to the police, returning the highways aspect of it to the Ministry of Works and all of that. And the government, the Jonathan government at the time, rejected it and said no, because they had a DG, they had a corps marshal that seemed to be doing well. And so these are some of the things that affect these decisions. And it gets to the National Assembly, for instance. Somebody is going to say, oh, but this agency, Inland Waterways, is the only agency in Kogi State. Why should that be the one to be scrapped? And people will get into all sorts of arguments. Yeah, sentiments and arguments. So it's important to realize that these are political and emotive issues. And they don't just work because they make sense.
They should.
They should. There's quite a lot of negotiation, quite a lot of persuasion, quite a lot of sorting out before these things come to
So, Dr. Abah, analysis has shown that if this report is carefully, if we follow through with it, we're going to save at least over 200 billion naira. I think my question is first, what would this do for our country, especially in this dire situation that we found ourselves? Then secondly, can we trust the government to follow through with the proper disbursement of this fund that we will be saving, with the report being implemented, and disbursing it to the different sectors that actually need it, or using it for nation building in general?
So I could ask you the same question with regards to removal of fuel subsidy.
That's what came. She was asking. That's what came to my mind. Where's the savings now?
She was setting me up.
Wow.
No, but the thing is, First of all, there's a mindset issue that this could fix. That mindset being that every single law that is enacted by a National Assembly comes with a new agency.
Yes.
That's the first problem. And so, like I said, we started with 541 agencies. We're now looking at 1,500 bodies that we're making provision for in our budgets. Okay, so, and don't forget that 541 that was enumerated, the plan was actually to reduce them.
Yes.
So now we've trebled that number. And so that mindset that we have infinite money and we just need to, we need to create agencies and a member of National Assembly.
And hire people.
Yeah, and hire people, exactly. Yeah. That's usually the main motive, actually. I attracted, they often say, members of the National Assembly, XYZ, and of course, you get lists from everywhere, from the villa, from governors to people looking for work, and so there's this mindset that, look, money is not the problem. We just need to create avenues for spending that money. So the first thing this will do is to tackle that mindset. The second thing is that the Oronsaye reports, the whole of the Oronsaye report's idea and approach wasn't just to save money, was also to improve the efficiency of agencies. So because many agencies, I'm sure that if I were to list the 541, there will be at least half you've never heard of.
Yes.
Right? So and you don't know what exactly they do.
Yeah.
Right? And many of those agencies, the people that head them, keep their heads down, say absolutely nothing.
And get paid.
They get paid. I have been in places where I have seen people announce themselves and they say they work for these coconut chemical agency of one state. I'm like, are you serious?
Well, let me shock you. There's actually an agency whose sole role is to preserve the legacy of First Act 77.
The same First Act in this Lagos that
when
we all know.
Exactly.
And it's in Lagos here.
Wow.
Okay, Dr. Joe, so that brings me to a really interesting point, because while we can talk about the cost of governance, and I think we also need an equation, what really goes into the cost of governance.
Yes.
What about the civil service reforms? Regardless of what we do with the agencies, regardless of what we do with ministries and departments, if we're not reforming the people inside the civil service, if they're not up to the 21st century, if they're not, technologically literate, and there are rules, 5 people can go for what one software can do, but we know that that's being fought. What about the civil service reforms? We can do all of this, but if the people in the civil service are still archaic, if they're just clocking in and clocking out, it really will not change much, will it?
Okay, so let's be clear with usage of terms.
Okay.
So the civil service and civil servants are those that work in ministries.
Yeah.
Okay, people that work in agencies, I'll term them as public servants.
Okay.
Okay.
And so public servants will be soldiers, legislators, anybody that draws a budget, that draws a salary from the budget is a public servant. The civil servants are those that work in Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. They are the only ones that can become permanent secretaries.
Okay.
Nobody else can. Okay, and their role is to support ministers to develop policy. They don't actually deliver in most cases. Delivery is done by the agencies. And that's why when government is not working, it's usually the agencies that are not working, because the agencies are the ones that are delivering things on the ground.
Implementers.
It's FEMA that is fixing potholes. It's not the Ministry of Works. Okay, it's LUTH that is treating patients, not the Ministry of Health. So yes, I agree with you. We need to retool our civil service. We need to make sure that that ability to create policies and supervise agencies, first of all, has the best people. And those people are properly trained, they're properly equipped, they're properly remunerated. I was shocked to find that virtually no retired director takes home 300,000 naira.
Wow.
A month. And to become a director, you need to have put in 27 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before you become a director.
Is it on level 17?
70, yeah. So you've put in 27 years. your salary is about 380,000 naira take home.
Wow.
You then retire, you're on about 280,000 per month. So I think we need to be mindful of how unseriously we treat our civil service.
Yes.
And that is quite a shame, because no society has ever developed without a capable, competent civil service.
Absolutely.
In many countries that have developed and are developing, the best brains actually go to the civil service, because you're exercising state power, the ability to shape the future of your country. It's a privilege not many people will have, and so the brightest people go to the civil service. But nobody that makes a first class is going to go and earn 58,000 take home as a fresh graduate.
And if that is happening, there's no need to wonder far.
Exactly.
Why there's corruption in the system.
Okay, Dr. Abah, let's take a quick time out. So when we come back, we'll continue this conversation, and of course, Jasiri will be back right now.
Welcome back to Jasiri. Well, we would have gone for hot topics, but what we're discussing is very hot, so we're choosing to stay on this. We're still talking about the implementation of the Oronsaye report after how many years again?
12.
12 years. And we've been hearing some things about, different levels and what their take home is, and, talking about the merger of certain agencies and ministries. Lolo did say that she heard one was Coconut Agency, the ministry. And of course, we still have Dr. Joe Abah, the former Director General of the Public Service Reforms, and now the Country Director for DAI. Thank you so much for still being with us.
Thanks, Blessing.
So, Dr. Abah, I was asking, when we do this cost of governance, I think we need to do like an equation, really. All of us will say, cost of governance in Nigeria is high. What goes into cost of governance?
There are different levels to it. So first of all, there's a minimum you need to run a functional state, right? So you need to have embassies in other countries. You need to have an army. You need to have a police. There are certain things you must have if you're going to function as a state. Then there are add-ons that can be wasteful, right? So you have the National Assembly, for instance, paying themselves what they pay themselves because they have the power of appropriation to do so. So the salary of a senator is a little over ₦1 million a month, officially. But I understand that they get allowances of about 15 million.
Sitting, furniture, newspaper,
entertainment,
clothing.
So there is that. But then there's also the mindset. Some leaders, presidents, come with different mindsets. Some want a small state, some want a large state. And so when the current president, for instance, announced, I think, about 48 ministers or so, you suddenly got the impression that this wasn't going to be a small government, right? So there is that, and then you get all sorts of jamborees to COP28 and all sorts of places that people go to. So and that's why in 2015, early 2015, we actually put in place a number of initiatives to try and reduce the cost of governance. So we banned foreign training and said, if you want anybody if you want to go to Harvard, bring the professor here. Let him or her come and train 30 people. We did that, and believe it or not, a number of some of the world's most famous training organizations went out of business because Nigeria was their main customer.
Oh, wow.
Right? Wow. And then we stopped, we restricted foreign travel.
Yeah.
So in order to be able to travel, you had to get approval from either the Secretary to Government or the head of service of the Federation. That cut the travel budget by some 60% or so. Wow. We banned souvenirs at workshops, and I'm sure you've seen. You've gone to government. I'm sure you've gone to government.
Isn't it Owambe?
That's the first.
You don't you want a jota and a goodie bag?
We are abusing the ones that do souvenir at Owambe.
I'm sure you've seen programs and government events that will have like 15 pages of pictures and one page of the actual program. So we actually banned that and said, look, it must be one single sheet of black and white paper, the program. But, so we did all of that in early 2015, but as is often the case, these things always creep back in. So there's a need to take a look at that. There's a need to take a look at the number of agencies we are creating. Most importantly, there's a need to lead by example. The president, the ministers need to lead by example. You can't tell people to tighten their belts when you are living large.
Wide.
That's not
And we've been saying that because we have to let Dr. Abah go.
I was thinking about it when he said that before Blessings interjected. I'm like, it's like your phone now. Let's take this up a bit. It's like your phone. If your phone is full, it's time to delete some apps, isn't it? Or clear your phone. So if the cost of governance is high, you have to somehow get back to the drawing board and check out things that you need to reduce. And so it's basically like what Dr. Abah...
What we've been doing has been borrowing memory to add to it.
Dr. Joe gets it. So we see what he did there.
Honestly, I'm just hoping that even if this actually gets implemented, let's even say we hope that it gets implemented, truly, we would see at least some kind of good fallout. She said we'll save about 200 million.
Billion.
And if million.
Billion.
Billion. In Nigeria, to pronounce before, you say things in the millions. But now, it's like trillions. Billions don't just do it.
They don't register.
It doesn't register. But are we hoping that we can have a cultural mind change? What can we do to even just change the leadership's mindset? Because everybody now will say, we're getting personal trainers to even train you on how to live better. Is there anything we can do as Nigerians to change our mindset, the leadership mindset?
I think we need to change our political structure. Our political structure is such that, when I was DG, I'm Igbo, I'm from Ebonyi State, and we Igbos have town meetings in every town where we work. And my town union people called me and said, "You're not performing. You're not performing doesn't mean you're not doing a good job as DGBPSR. It means that you're not employing thousands. You're not sharing contracts and sharing money.
You're eating the cake and we're not eating with you.
Exactly. So we need to change, and that's why, if you complain about legislators, they will tell you, well, majority of that 15 million goes to servicing all sorts of requests and needs. So there's a need to look again at our political structure. It's currently too attractive. Public office is currently too attractive. When I say to people that being a public servant is being a servant of the public, it's something they don't internalize.
No, they don't.
So we just need to change what we expect of our public servants, and then we need to demand better behavior from our leaders.
All right, and on that note, we'll have to end the conversation now. Dr. Joe Abah, coming straight from the airport, we so much appreciate your time this morning. And I know a lot of people have been calling him because of the announcements from the Federal Executive Council that President Tinubu has said that his committee, 8-man committee, has 12 weeks to work out the modalities of implementing the Oronsaye report. We'll continue to keep up to date with him on that as well. Ladies, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to. We'll continue our conversation off. But 10 a.m. West African time, we'll be back right here on Just Have a good one. Bye-bye.